You're listening to Turtle Island News with Tracy Kennedy. Fires right now are still burning more than 24 hours after that driverless train carrying petroleum derailed, exploded in a Quebec town, setting off, sorry everyone, a massive blaze. We have incredible events going on right now. Of course, earth-shattering ones like fires and planes falling right out of the sky. More and more traffic jams, of course. We also have this corporate takeover, which is not a surprise to everyone, to anyone out there, with the welfare state, which is used to control us, by the way. They're not helping us. They are getting us used to slavery, and we are all very used to it. Today I had 2 reports before I started my news of bankers completely turning their backs on people. Dolly sent me one this morning. As a matter of fact, a bank refuses to honor an ill man's cashier's check. Doctors are saying go home and die in peace when the money runs out. Banks, of course, are in cahoots with them. This food, water, energy, weather wars, all of the colonization, all of the world takeover, universal principles are being used here by the corporate elite. And it's money. We have talked about this over and over again, and it's why when the money runs out, they no longer want you. So you're probably asking, well, if these people are against us, why on earth would they give us welfare? A little louder? Oh, okay, guys. I can fix that right up. Thank you for telling me to. I've been messing with sounds. Let me know if that's okay. I don't want it to be like so much louder than the music, but if it's close, that's good. Better? Oh, good. Good. Okay. So let me know how I'm doing. Wonderful. Thank you, guys. So, we're having all of these things, right? We're having people force-fed on Guantanamo. Just like my son was saying, Mos Def went through that same procedure. It's not because they love us here. I think we've got that. It's because they want a few of us who will always be slaves and fight for them. I'm still getting constantly plagued by messages of how poor Americans are being overrun by immigrants. Immigrants from South America who walked back and forth for thousands of years into the north of Turtle Island. This is where they're from. If you have European ancestry, then you need to think on that. You need to think on it deeply, because you're not from here. And whether you call this place, I don't know, Venezuela or United States or Canada, that is all a myth. It is a myth specifically to make us angry. It's a myth used to keep us in terror and fear and hating each other. You know, things like we're force-feeding people, and that's okay. You know, at the over 100 and, what is it now, 3 months for sure, that people in Guantanamo Bay been force-fed and on their hunger strike. Prisoners. We are all prisoners one way or another. when we have an amazing amount of completely free energy out there. Completely free. Which is why NASA's lying to us. Which is why they lie to us about things that we have even been told are true. That they can't even lie about anymore. Chavez came out and said he was going to supply this planet with cheap oil forever. That's why he's dead. That's why he became the axis of evil. It's why NASA is repeatedly lying about, and I've mentioned it a couple times in the last couple weeks, NASA is lying. Geologists are not only lying, but they've been fired globally because they don't need them. We have had enough geological surveys to tell the big guys, the big bankers, where all the water is, where all the oils are, where all the diamonds are, and they also know they can go off planet to an asteroid and get every one of these things. First Nations, is recovering from that petrol sheen all across the Athabasca River. Sobs are being heard as this intermittent petroleum and propane cannons that were doomed to frighten wildlife away are being used. Supposedly being used because we are running low on oil. We are running low on coal. But again, we are not running low on any of these things. Royal Bank of Canada has already gobbled up most of the banks in the Caribbean and the majority of the banks all over the world, quietly, believe it or not. Now it's moving to take over the EU because Cagney, the Queen's representative, who still runs Canada, and, being part native, as I am myself, and spouting about these things all the time, we need to go over the treaties, people who signed those with her. And as far as I'm concerned, it's already too late, because the guys she put in charge have always betrayed us, right? You can tell if your leader is part of the upper management. Well, probably more like middle management. Do you know how you can tell? Because he is still alive. They do not negotiate, these people. They haven't ever negotiated. They kill you. This is why wars start. This is why famine. I know great people of the United States, and I'm not trashing you. When they decided and really took a look at what England was doing, what happened? British soldiers went door to door to door, raped women and children, of course, and if people would not hand over their goods and their money, they would nail doors shut and set those people on fire. That happened. It's the same as what happened in Russia. It's the same as what happened in Germany. Germany, by the way, which was at the time one of the last great bastions of Christianity, it was. That had to be put a stop to. That's why the war. 2 of them. Hitler came up and brought these people, the end of the First World War. Let's be honest here, because it's always food and water. Everything else is fluff. It's fluff. Food, water, money. The reason why there was a war there is those people had no food. That's what they lost. They lost a piece that later France took, actually World War I. That was the biggest, it made all of the food, most of the growing for all of Germany. This is why this happened. There was no great peace that happened here. Not Canada, not United States, not South America, not Europe. Europe came over here because they had raped their land so badly that there was almost no drinkable water. They came over here, and yes, of course, we can argue that Columbus discovered nothing, because he didn't. They already knew where these lands were. But when he came over, he came specifically for resources, given paper bulls that sent people out to steal. It is theft. That's what they did. It's all they did. And these same companies still rule everything. The Vatican, who could tell kings and princes who they could and who they could not marry. These people gave certain banks, and yes, the Rothschilds are in there, certain banks money and paper bulls and in charge of the World Bank. The World Bank has always been in charge of everything. Always. Wars have always been started because a couple people wanted to make more money. Like, for instance, when there wasn't enough sales and metal going on. That started a war. Now, the Queen's representative, of course, Cagney, is over in charge of the English Bank, Bank of England. He was in charge of the Royal Bank of Canada, which is the exact same bank. Here he goes. That's also why George Bush is up here buying pieces of our water in Canada. And all of the Bush family, who are just middlemen, of course, were all over South America buying the aquifers. It looks like land, of course, and everyone's saying, you know what, it's because they're leaving America. No. They are buying land and water resources so that they can begin the new scarcity. The new scarcity will be water. But water is not scarce. As a matter of fact, we can desalinate oceans now. If we did a harvest once a year during spring, we would have all of the water we need. So, all of these train derailments, all of these big metal objects falling from the sky, breaking down repeatedly. We need to talk about that